Hello guys, it's David here and welcome to my daily update where I build $100,000 business year live in public. So how these daily updates usually go is that first I go through your questions or help you with your make scenarios. Then I go through my YouTube stats and see how my channels are going. And then lastly, I will just do strategy, life work, freestyle apping. And today I will talk about two things. One thing is kind of school education and some parallels with business, and then the second one is just like how no one really cares about your videos, so you shouldn't care about what people think, right? This kind of paradigm shift. So let's get right into it. Let's check if there are any new comments on my video or my channel in general, and if they're not, what I'm doing is that I go to some other creators and see their comments and kind of force myself to put my ideas together. So if I check in here, there are no new comments. So what I will do instead is check this guy, Nick, and see if he has any questions that I can possibly add value to, right? Okay, so let's scroll all the way to the bottom and say, hey Nick, are there any automations that I can sell to the accountants? I'm finding it hard to figure out. Yeah, actually, I think accountants are one of the niches where you can provide a lot of value, right? A lot of the times, some of the stuff that they need to do is extract information from invoices. So that's definitely one thing. Another thing is sometimes Stripe or some other payment processors are used for the actual payment processing, but then there needs to be invoice created either in Xero or QuickBooks or any other invoicing platform depending on your country or where you're located. And those are all good automations that the accountants find a lot of value in. So there's definitely something that's helpful. Same goes, for instance, for disputes in Stripe or refunds in Stripe, that again, you know, a lot of the times the document that Stripe or other payment processor gives you isn't enough, but you need to create an actually matching invoice for that. So those are the two things that kind of come up to my mind as of now. CEO of Whisper says, it says your WOP isn't available right now. What can I do? That's unrelated to me. Kev Cement says, hey Nick, I love the value you give. Really solid. Yeah, he's a smart guy. I'm currently building an agency focused on generating qualified leads for PE firms, using private equity firms, using meta ads or cold emails, plus AI voice agents to pre-qualify and book meetings. If you were in my shoes, how would you approach lead gen plus structuring the offer? Curious to hear your take on it. I'm just trying to see if I understand it correctly, right? So what you want to do is get qualified leads for private equity firms using meta ads or cold emails, okay, plus AI voice agents to pre-qualify and book meetings. So first of all, just the business model, right? I'm not sure what are the leads necessarily for, because if we talk about private equity as a business model, it's usually a business model where some entity, usually some fund manager, creates a fund and then gets people to invest in that fund, or a lot of the times it's not actually people, like individuals, and that's where I'm kind of getting at. Most of the times it's some institutional investors, so it would be pension funds, it would be maybe even some hedge funds, it would be governments, endowment funds, etc., that pour large amounts of money into the private equity fund, and then the private equity fund works with that money, buys out company, leverages the buyouts, and grows the company and eventually tries to sell them, right? Even though maybe some of you, if you watch this space lately, it has became more and more difficult to sell the companies that the private equity funds own, and there's a more and more kind of secondary ownership where they just sell it to another private equity. But that's a story for another day. What I'm trying to say is that private equity firms, they don't usually target individuals through ads, and they don't target wide base of individuals, because usually they're not open to small retail investments. They're looking for institutional investors, and they're looking for very few investors, and usually they already have some sort of professional knowledge, some kind of relationship that's already in there. And even if there isn't, the second part that I'm also very unsure about is AI voice agent to pre-qualify and book the meetings. Because to be completely blunt with you, if you have a case like this, when you're aiming for a very small target audience of people and they're limited by nature, you don't want to necessarily burn them by using AI. I would actually want to have your salespeople, and in this case, probably your best salespeople, or in general in the private equity, it would be usually someone from a high management or partners talking to the people, having the first connection and the later connections and selling them. So yeah, maybe there is something that I'm missing, but to be honest, I don't see the proposition in here. Aiden says, hello, I was wondering what kind of social proof should I use in my cold emails or even sales call when I don't have any previous experience and I'm looking for my first ever client, meaning I haven't implemented a system to a business yet. I feel bad about straight up lying to leads, saying I built this system for this company and generated X amount in 2 weeks, even though it's not true. Should I write, I saw this cool guy Nick generate X dollars for a business using this exact system or something like that? Will that help me? No, it's not the way I would go about it. What I would do is, if you actually don't have any experience whatsoever, I would build 1 or 2 systems on your own and then use that as the social proof or testimonial. So you don't necessarily need to tell the clients that you haven't implemented the system, but you can show them that you actually build out the system and that it's working. Keep Moving says, hey dude, unrelated but super important. I'm having serious issues parsing JSON from ChatGPT to PandaDoc. I tried validation tools, says error on line with open bracket. Then when I fixed it, got an error on line 3. I don't understand. How can I change the GPT output to correct this? I use the prompts from your videos. I'd be happy to help with this. Unfortunately, I haven't seen the video. So I don't know what kind of input the PandaDoc needs. But in general, you can just set up the ChatGPT in a way that it gives JSON as a response, and then you can parse the JSON with the parse module, and then that's what I would feed to PandaDoc or other documents. So the motivation says, hey Nick, when you were selling growth systems like lead gen, were you writing the email copy for the client, or you would just create the system and personalization and deliver that? That's not related to me, so I will skip that. Sami Sat says, I had a few questions regarding getting clients organically. Let's say I'm writing a cold email or talking to someone where I'm explaining them the system. So in your experience, what's the hook that gives them the main reasoning to listen to you? Since I'm just starting out, I don't have any results, so no credibility, but how do I get person hooked into listening to me? You really need to kind of laser down on what problem you're solving for them. So earlier example, accountants need to parse a lot of invoices manually, let's say. So that's the problem that you're solving. And you really need to zoom in on that and really kind of isolate the pain that they're feeling and then provide your solution to that. That's how I would go about it. Okay, so that's all for the questions today. What I want to do now is just check my YouTube statistics, and let's see how our daily channel is doing. So the daily channel has still 6 subscribers, so we're still staying on the same level, but I think that I saw something positive for the other channel, so let's check that. And if I check the main channel, we actually have 219 subscribers, so we grew by 2 subscribers. That's very exciting. That's again almost 1% of growth, and that's, you know, something that I'm happy about. And again, it's something that I was mentioning before. The subscribers never seem to grow just by 1. It's either 0 or it's 2, 3, etc. That's this part. And then 2 things that I would like to talk about. First thing, I'm still in exam season period, so I spend a lot of time learning and studying. The 2 main subjects that I'm focusing on right now are private law and stats. And I kind of see some parallels with business, right? When it comes to the law, we just have 25 questions, 25 areas that we should study about independently and then be able to talk about them, right? And it's oral exam. And to be honest, for me, even though the private law is interesting for me, this kind of learning is very boring for me because it's just memorization and kind of there doesn't seem to be the direct goal, I guess. Meanwhile, the statistics is actually very interesting, even though I would say that it's more demanding mentally. I find it very fun to do because you have specific problems. We have a lot of problem sets, past papers, and just the nature of statistics is that you have some problem to solve and then you're solving it using your knowledge, and that's way more engaging. And I feel like it's the same with business. I feel like that's why I actually like business so much, because it's engaging. There is always something new, some new problem to solve, and yeah, you just move by solving the problems. The second thing is kind of awareness about other people, right? And a lot of the people, you know, I'm one of the people that are more kind of aware of what other people think of me. And you will hear people saying that, well, it doesn't matter, no one cares, right? And that's true, but you don't feel it that much throughout life. When you will feel it, though, is in the beginning of a YouTube journey, which is very interesting because, as you can see, I'm creating a lot of videos, but most of the videos are actually just for me, you know? So it kind of brutally, but very honestly, shows you that no one really cares about what you're doing unless there is some value in it for them, right? So that's something I should keep in mind. And with that being said, see you guys tomorrow.